Wednesday in Woburn. I'm your host, Samantha Stone. I hope you had a wonderful holiday season. We've had a couple weeks off. I'm really excited to be back. We have some really important and some fun stuff to talk about today. And we've got some wonderful guests. We have Barbara Locke, who's the president of the Teachers Union, who's going to be joining us, Mayor Scott Galvin, as always. And of course, we also have another special guest, Bob, who's going to talk about a really fun event that's coming up with the Woburn Chamber of Commerce that you are definitely going to want to hear about. First up today, we have Barbara Locke, who's the president of the Woburn Teachers Union, and I'm really excited to have her come on board. We know that there are still negotiations happening between the city and the teachers, and we're grateful that she's agreed to join us to talk a little bit about where we're at and what's going to happen next. I'm really glad that you're here today. I wish it was under better circumstances. We know that it's been sort of widely reported that the last negotiation conversations didn't go so well, and there was a breakdown, and there was a discussion about having to go to mediation. I wanted to kind of check in. It's been a few days and things. Is that still kind of where we are at?
Right. Well, so that's a great question because, you know, we're a little bit on the fence here, not quite knowing. At our last meeting, Scott said we're at an impasse and we're going to go to mediation, and we disagreed. We didn't want to jointly file for mediation. We feel like we're close and we just need to stick it out, and that's what we thought we were going to do, and that's what the school committee had said, and for some unknown reason he just decided that no. So then since then I've received an off-the-record proposal from Ellen Crowley, and and my team has seen it. So my response to her was, well, does this mean that when you're not going to mediation and I'll be back at the table, which is exactly what we want. Okay. I think we'll find solution much better. And, it's been quite collaborative for a long time. It just seems like when we get to this place with COLA, cost of living adjustments, it gets back and forth. And then they've thrown a couple of curveballs at us, and we're not quite understanding why. So. So I think we're back at the table. I could find out as early as this evening.
Okay. Well, it's always good news when we can collaborate and come together. And I know people have worked really hard to be able to do that on both sides, and that everyone wants a really happy outcome and wants this. I was just looking back. So this is a 3-year contract. I'm going to share my ignorance with you. So this is a 3-year contract. That expired. We put in place a letter of agreement for this current year that we have been in, if I understand correctly, and that has since expired. The agreement that you're negotiating right now, will it serve the next 3 years, or are we in a situation where it goes back in time to cover and then we'll be back at the negotiating table in a year from now?
So, well, let me back up a little bit. During COVID, we signed a 1-year agreement. Okay. We took a 1% increase and decided in one day, let's get back to work. We have a lot of work to do with COVID. It was just a scary time.
Thank you.
So
for doing
so
that.
we decided, let's put our energies into the children, into a job we needed to do. So that was 21-22. So then our contract, we usually sign a 3-year. Okay. So now we're on a 3-year. So we're entering the first year without a contract. Okay. So this would be the first year of a 3-year contract. So that's where we're at. Okay. And we had a memorandum of agreement, gave it to the membership, and it was voted down, resoundingly.
I'm glad you raised that, because I wanted to ask you about that. It felt unusual to have a situation, and it wasn't just voted down. It was voted down, if I remember correctly, 98% of membership voted it down. That seems unusual.
Unprecedented, right? Okay. And even throughout the state, it was something that was mentioned to many districts, like you hear about Woburn. And I think our members were just after the 1 year, 1%, and what we went through with COVID and how we hung in there, and we just felt like the offer was not disrespectful, and we didn't feel valued, and that just shown in the vote.
Very clear, right? That is not a signal that you can confuse.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about, the city has published at least part of their offer, their financial offer. They've talked about, I'm just going to read it so I don't get it wrong, that they've talked about that they've included raises totaling 10% over 3 years, with almost half, which I'm assuming is less than half, being allocated in the first year. They've had some increases in membership, 403B contribution, which I assume is a retirement plan. and then some increases in tuition reimbursement. It sounds good. What I don't know is clearly there's some important things where the union membership feels that they're deserved more in something. So tell us about where the gap lies.
Right. Well, you can always make everything look good. Then you have to look underneath, and from both sides. They had 40 tentative agreements given at the beginning of this. We started a year ago, November. 40 proposals. That's a lot of proposals. So we've done a lot of work with them and have agreed tentatively on 29 of them. So, the Woburn teachers, we've tried to work back and forth. We had 19 proposals, and I believe they've agreed on 6. Don't quote me, because it's gone back and forth, because we're still in a little bit of a limbo here. However,
and I just want to clarify, when you say proposals, you mean specific asks within the agreement.
Correct.
So not, a whole new proposal, but in this case, there's, the city's come and said, we want these 40 things. You've come back and said, we've agreed with 29 of them. You have come back and said, we want these 6 things.
Right.
The city has agreed to 6 or some number around
Right. And that's
that.
a very healthy negotiation, and you don't always get what you want, so you just try to compromise and do the best you can. So that's what we have done. So with that said, then we get to the place where we frustrated. Now, as a president of this union and as a Woburnite from day one, I've always pushed that the Woburn Teachers Association isn't just about us getting raises. That's not at all our message. It's about making Woburn Public Schools better. We're proud of where we teach. We want the best. And so we've asked for physical education twice a week in our elementary schools. I mean, you never see that at a table. That's not benefiting us. We've asked for smaller class sizes because we know that the classroom is not the same as it was 20 years ago.
So let's talk about that one in particular, because I know I've asked about it, and at the time that I asked, it didn't appear to be on the table, and
it was on the table.
Yeah. So, and we're not going to, we'll be productive and positive, and we're going to project a happy outcome. But right now, there's a lot of discussion, debate, and always is across the nation, not just a Woburn thing, about the size of the classroom and what we're able to do. We've certainly had a really rough couple of years as we went through COVID. And one of the things that was interesting to me during that time is, in some ways, we were operating with smaller classrooms because some students were remote and some students were in the classroom. So maybe that gave us some interesting insights and things. What is the proposal compared to where we are today? And I know it varies from elementary to middle school to high school in terms of average class size.
Yeah, the concern mostly is elementary, so that's where our class sizes for grades 1 through 3 is up to 26 children. And then 4 and 5 was 28. And we didn't understand the rationalization behind that, and I don't know when that became part of our CBA, but the tentative agreement did say that they would bring 4th and 5th down to 26. So that was a compromise, absolutely, and we appreciated that. However, we never really got to a number because they pretty much said, nope, that's all. There was a hard no on anything else. We didn't have a chance to say 22, 21, 23, but again, it's difficult talking to those elementary. I've taught at all 3 levels, so I have a good idea.
As a mother who raised 4 human beings, 4 in a room is a lot. Let
Absolutely.
alone, 25. How does our classroom size, assuming, let's say the 26 that we have today, how does that compare to cities like ourselves in Massachusetts?
Yeah, we're careful about comparing because cities like ourselves, we have a diverse community now, which is lovely, and we celebrate that, but it's a challenge. Our EL students, mental issues with COVID and all of those challenges that the classroom is so different now than it was. So, to compare is all right, but we just want what's best, to say, well, they have it. Well, that old saying, well, if Sally jumped off the roof, would you? We're not trying to compare ourselves to anybody. We're trying to be the best and let everybody now compare themselves to us. That's my mantra anyway. And so, tell you the truth, there are some districts who don't even have class size in their contract. So districts can just, and it's all money. It's absolutely money. But, when you have 2 4th graders at the elementary, and then they have to make it 3, and then they have to make the 5th grade too. You know, there's always this back and forth with elementary. Our suggestion was just keep all the classes. And then that one year when you didn't need the 3rd, those children are able to have a smaller class size. What a wonderful world, right? That would be just beautiful. And then you wouldn't be jumping these poor teachers back and forth, going to 5th, going to 4th, moving across the town to a different school. It just is but it all comes down to money, you know, and to
And I would imagine there is some concern about equity across schools. If you have one classroom size that is significantly smaller than another classroom size, does that open up risk and challenges, right?
It does, you know, and that's, we just go and teach the kids, you know, that's the administrators' jobs to, but we just feel like, no doubt, a smaller class size. I mean, I've been in classes that are larger and not nearly as challenging as small, so it depends on your, on your players, so to speak. But,
what else? So we've talked about increased gym. We've talked about discussions around class size. What other things are still our sticking points?
Well, one thing is they wanted the day a little bit longer because they want, I believe, I don't want to speak for her, but our curriculum superintendent wants us to be able to have more early release days, like many districts have. We have 5 now, 6 for elementary, and they wanted to have additional 10, which we thought was an awful lot. So they were trying to put some time in the early morning, time at the end of the day, so that now the students have enough time so that they can, DESE will give them those early release days. There was a reason, and it was I thought, a great idea, except we felt as teachers, starting early like that was just a mess. We just felt it was unsafe, and so we compromised. We said, all right, well, one of our proposals was, we'll add 5 minutes to the end of the day, which aggregated to be 2.5 days, and then add another day. So we've definitely met them more than halfway on that. And then all of a sudden, without any kind of notice, they're asking us to come 5 days before the beginning of school. So we're like, well, wait a minute. It was kind of like a curveball. We have 2 days that we come before the children, and now they want to have additional 5.
So 7 days. Now, I've heard the ask is to do professional development time. Is that how they've presented the information? And
well, my response was, well, that's ridiculous. 7 days. I mean, you're not going to get the effectiveness you want as you would if you did it during the school year. You had an early release. Hey, listen, we really need to talk a little bit more about bullying, or maybe do something like that. Things that come up into, during the school year where we can now say, hey, now that's a good PD. Because some of the PD,
so part of it is the ask of the days, but it's also partly having it all sort of condensed together versus brought up at various times based on needs.
Made no sense. And the mayor had said to me and said to us that, well, that's what negotiation is. I have to get something for what we give you. And I disagree with that. We have given much, not only our blood, sweat, and tears and our love for these children, but also, the year of COVID and everything else. We're asking for an adjustment, a cost of living adjustment. It's really not a raise. And with 8.9 now with Social Security, and if they were to offer 10, and then you can't overlook that 1%, that's 11 in 4 years. So now you're bringing that down. Many of our members receive less money because they received a 1% on a $22,000 salary, which is where our paras start, which is below poverty. And their premiums in health went up. So they literally had a paycheck that was less money.
Well, let's talk about that. So the financial offer that's on the table, or was last presented and publicly discussed, was that 10% over 3 years. What have teachers come back and said, we want X? What's the difference?
So I don't think that was the problem. It was the other things. It was it was the 5 minutes, the situations with the curriculum, and they're going to have control over our curriculum.
I want to talk about that because I've heard that mentioned multiple times about teacher-led versus sort of approved curriculum. And I'm going to be this is where another ignorance is coming in. I'm not sure I understand the meaningful application. Do we say that teachers have no discretion over the curriculum that's taught in the classroom at all, right? We don't do that today.
No, we don't,
So,
and nor should we.
right.
You know,
So is the proposed language implying that that's the case, or what's the
It
concern?
was, and so before we had the ratification vote, I went back to the table by myself, with them saying, listen, we need to clean these 3 things up, or this will never ratify. And the district was wonderful, open-minded. We sat and we tried to fix it, so to speak, or clarify it, if you will. And that they clarified, and we felt good with it.
Okay.
So
we're in a better place with the current language.
We think so, but of course it's still a tentative agreement. There's nothing that's been ratified with it, but they listened, you know. But I think that,
are there other things? So if we were, if we were to resolve the classroom size, resolve the 5 days of professional development, or what becomes 7 days of professional development for the classroom, what other things would the union require before you think, hey, we can go back to membership and likely get a yes vote? I realize we don't ever know until it happens.
Right. And the longer you put it off, the more agitated people get, and the more and you know, and morale is low, and all of those things occur. So we're trying to prevent that from happening, but we also, you know, need to. I think we deserve it. We deserve this type of increase, and especially for our paraprofessionals. Our paraprofessionals, you know, the $22,000 and the jobs they do, it's just not enough.
For those folks who don't know what a paraprofessional is, they're typically an aide in the classroom that works with individual students.
They used to be called aides, and then they changed it during the year.
Yeah. Is that what they do?
Yes, and many IEPs for our children require a one-on-one para, and we now call them ESPs, Educational Support Personnel, or professional. So they're vital. I mean,
they're vital, but also my understanding is we're actually haven't been able to fill all the positions, and so in some cases we have paraprofessionals who are working with multiple students, which isn't where we would like to be, which is a staffing issue, and it's not, that's a reality. But I imagine salary and things are part of the challenge in recruiting people to positions.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, I mean, Woburn has great staff, you know, the teachers, paras, custodians, CAF people. It's just a wonderful environment, I think, when we come into school. But we need to feel valued, and when we're told that, you know, the only way you're going to get a 2.7% raise is if you come in for 5 more days, you know, that's, and the 5 more days isn't doing anything for our children. You know, it really isn't. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's a control thing. It's an ego thing. I don't know what it is, but it's unnecessary, and it just makes for the negotiations to really, you know, come to a standstill. So we're ready to keep going, and I think we can. I just don't want to have an MOA that is voted down again.
Nope, nobody wants that, I'm sure.
Right.
I remember when one of my kids, who's now 24, was a senior in high school. Teachers were in contract negotiations, and there was a work to contract, work to rule scenario. And one of the things that happened was they couldn't get college recommendations, and they didn't have the extra time to study for AP exams with some other teachers. It was meaningful, right? It showed us some of the extras that are that the staff goes out of their way. And so I personally, we felt that pretty hard. It all worked out fine.
Yeah.
And I know we ended up getting a contract negotiation. You know, I haven't seen measures like that in place yet. We've seen some teachers outside with signs and things, but where are you in terms of taking next actions during this process?
Well, that's probably where I'll say no comment, but I will say that we have purposely not gone to a full work to rule, because we found it just hurts children. You know, not writing recommendations, you know, all of those things. So
it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was really stressful for, you know, my senior, and it worked out. They were able to get support through some wonderful community members, but, but it's tough.
It is tough, and I think even MTA has found that it doesn't do any, it just gets everybody aggravated and upset, and then that reflects onto the children. So we decided, let's just do this standouts in different schools, just to make the community aware that we don't have a contract, and we want to have a contract, and we think a fair contract is close. But we've kind of hit a little wall with this last proposal, which we don't understand, but we're hoping to.
So I know that there are multiple people involved in the negotiation. Obviously, the teachers union, but also school committee and the mayor's office. It has felt like from the public reporting, and I know there's a lot of things that happens behind the scenes that I'm not asking you necessarily to comment on, but from a public, it's felt like the mayor has led the negotiations. And so I'm curious, just how does it work? How does it really work? And what role does the school committee play in all this?
Well, I guess I have to change the narrative now, which I thought I would not do, but I will, because I care about Woburn, and I'm concerned that a mayor, not Scott Galvin, a mayor has so much authority and autonomy and decision making that it's almost like a dictatorship to me. It's like, well, wait a minute here. You are a vote on the school committee, but there was one time where not one of those administrators opened their mouths. As they left, I stood and said, what is going on here? Where are your voices? Nobody spoke, nobody. And it was evident that they were told not to speak, in my opinion. Now that might not be the truth, but that's when I got to realize, and I said, boy, maybe we as a community need to look at how the charter is written in our school, that one person, could have so much power. The Scott said, he goes, well, I'm the mayor. I've been the mayor for 14 years, and I run the city. And I thought to myself, no, you don't. We run the city. We love the city. You're there to support us and to lift us up and to raise our spirits and our morale. You don't run the city, and so that can get very, very dangerous, in my opinion, and not productive. We talk about emotional intelligence. Maybe some of our leaders need to do some PD in emotional intelligence, because it just seems like, wait a minute, we're people who have to feed our children and do all those things, and we need to be valued. When you value and when you make people think they matter, it energizes them, and it's evident. And it's not just teachers. I've talked to people at City Hall, police, fire. There's this and there doesn't need to be the and it's too bad. Yeah. It's just too bad, and I don't know how to stop it. So we just keep pushing on and, do the best we can.
What do teachers want families and residents of Woburn to know about the process, what's next, how they can be supportive? Right.
Well, of course, the smaller class size, things like phys ed, wanting your teachers to be valued so that they come in and want to be there, because that's such an important part. I know, having taught for 40 years, that my relationships with my children, my students, are key. That you need to be rested and you need to feel good when you come in. It's evident to the children in the work that we do. It's different than swinging a hammer. It's different than mowing a lawn. We're working with human beings, and so what I'd like the community to know is that we just want to feel valued, and it isn't with it's not just about money, but there's this underlying disrespect that we feel. It's palpable. It's there, and it's been there. I've been at the table too many times where here we go again. We just feel, I don't know. I think it could be resolved so much quicker. Then all of a sudden, the brakes are put on and things fall apart. So we just, and I know the community feels that way. Everybody has their opinions on teachers. Oh, you only work 182 days and you have your summers off. We've all gone through that, and I've lived with that all my life, and that's okay. And we realize that, and we're fortunate. This is the profession that we chose, and these are the things that happen. However, that's no reason to not value us. So that's where we're at. I think, if the community could come and support us and be vocal, I don't know. I can't say that's going to make any difference, but it's going to make us feel better. Yeah. And
I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. I think what is frustrating for me as an outside observer is it seems you're very, very close. Like when you shared what is still on the table that you don't agree on, it actually seems like a very surmountable gap.
Well, we two meetings ago, we sat and we said, okay, we're staying here until we get an agreement. And I even went in and said, hey, we're ordering Chick-fil-A, you know, just to tease them as they came back from a caucus. And all of a sudden at 7:15, the mayor got up and said, okay, we're done tonight. And we all kind of looked at each other like, well, wait a minute, I thought we were going to settle this tonight. And I don't know the reason. He didn't give a reason, but he just stopped. So then we came back the next time, and he came in 35 minutes late and said, yeah, we're going to go to mediation. So it went from, okay, we're going to do this tonight, to now we're in mediation, and it's one person making that decision. And it's that's what's so frustrating. It's like, wow, I thought we were a community with, you know, different skill sets, and everybody works together. I'm a coach, right? That's what you do. You work together and you find solutions. So anyway.
What would you say to some of the community who I think, and this question has come to me quite often to ask, and it is coming from people that I know respect teachers and their professions, at least some of them. I don't know all of them personally, but some of them. And one of the things that comes up is, boy, we would just love to pay everybody, you know, across the city a 20% increase, because there's so many people across our city, and DPW and in the police and in the fire and in the teachers, and everyone who just works really, really hard across the city. We do have some balance that we have to provide, some fiscal responsibility. Is this the same or more than what we're being asked to increase other people's city salaries? And how do teachers think about, when you're thinking about what seems like the right thing to do, how do we separate it from what we do across the city? And I don't know what the other unions have been offered, so it's really more just a question around sort of philosophically, how do we figure out what the right division of the pie is, right?
The equity piece is tough, even, you know, from teaching elementary to teaching high school. The differences, you can't even compare them. You just go in and do the job you love to do and were called to do, in my opinion. We don't want to go against our sisters and brothers in unions. We the firemen, the police, we're all together, you know, and together we you know, help the community. So to start to compare, I don't know. You know, we can get into it, you know, well, you have to have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree to be a teacher. You don't have to have that to be a firefighter. So, you know, but you're never gonna, you know, you start keeping score and nobody wins.
I would agree with you, and I think there are lots of peoples and talents across our city in lots of different ways.
We should celebrate those.
And there's lots of things, and it's one of the things I hope our education system in the city does an even better job of. We have some great programs here, but we still, think we have great opportunities to do more hands-on, to do more partnerships, to do all kinds of really exciting new things that is hard to do when we're keeping the classroom afloat, right? When you're just getting the basics in place.
Right. Or we're fighting again for contract, you know, because it just pulls everybody down. So that energy and that excitement, it doesn't maintain itself, because we're exasperated by it, and teachers are asked to do more and more and more. You know, it's a lot. You know, the way our community and two parents having to work. You know, we can go on. Our jobs have changed quite a bit. I've seen it and I've felt it, and that's fine. But again, on the flip side, you know, a thank you very much and a half of the
well, boy, does it make me sad to think that is sort of the emotion of feeling respected and valued is a big part of why 98% of the people voted against a contract and are struggling to come to agreement on something where we're so close. So it is my hope and my wish that all of the teachers and the city can come together and get us to the other side and get it quickly. I'm confident we will. One way or another, it's going to happen. I thank you for your time today, and
Samantha.
Thank you for sharing. I know it's been challenging and for all good reasons of not wanting to expose all the things that happen behind the scenes to try and get to a good place. I'm hoping that this dialogue will continue, and a couple weeks from now we'll get back together and we're going to be celebrating
exactly.
a contract. My
intent being here is to just bring out a positive, and that we're working together, and we feel like the other side can be there, but it just takes a little bit more time. So we always do end up. You just don't want all those, as we say, 100 little cuts that happen. You know, you get there, but there's water under the bridge. So we're hoping that we can, as we say in my prevention before care, right? Prevent it.
So for those of you who are watching who, right now is a tough time for our teachers and our city. It's a tough time for all of us to be in this place. So if there's someone who's done a little extra special love for your child, make sure to send a little note or say a little thank you. Everybody who works in our city should feel appreciated because this is hard work, and we recognize that. Thank you, Barbara, for joining us.
Thank you, Samantha.
Next up, we're going to talk to Mayor Scott Galvin and get his take on this, as well as some other things that are happening across the city. Happy New Year. We took a couple weeks off of taping. Did you have a good holiday season?
I did. Very nice, relaxing. It was good.
Yeah.
How about you?
It was really low key and fabulous.
Yeah.
We had a just relaxing time. I did nothing productive. So
That's a good
that
thing,
felt
yeah.
really nice, which
Yeah.
was good. A lot of eating with family and playing games and, a little bit of outdoor activity.
That's great.
Yeah. So, Scott, before you joined us, I had a conversation in studio with Barbara Locke, just talking a little bit about the teacher contracts. And we are what sounds like really close, like painfully close to getting an agreement from her point of view. I know you've been working along with school committee and the union really hard for a long time to get us over the hurdle. And I just wanted to kind of get a sense from you where you feel we're at and, what we as a community can do to support you and the city and the teachers and help us get over the finish line.
Well, I think it's, and I appreciate your offer, trying to help us get over the finish line.
we can hope maybe it's to say a prayer, Scott, that we can do, but
No, it's one of the things is, you do the negotiations and the negotiations are, they're really closed to the public, and that's why you abide by the ground rules and you try to, work within the spirit of the ground rules to get an agreement that works for everybody and treats the employees fairly and has things in it that are good for the children, good for the teachers and the administration, and that's what we're working on. And sometimes when you're trying to get to that point, there's going to be disagreement, and we're trying to come to something, like I said, that works for both sides. That's all.
So, it was widely reported that in the negotiations, you had said that teachers were replaceable. I find it hard to believe that you really believe that. And I suspect it might have been a heat of the moment comment or a misunderstood comment. I wasn't in the room, but wanted to give you a chance to address that.
No. And again, I did or didn't expect it, but when you're in bargaining sessions, and I've done this, for close to 14 years, and bargained with the police, bargained with the fire, bargained with all the teachers 3 or 4 times, and they're closed to the public for a reason. And things get said, and in cases, sometimes things get taken out of context, or context is intentionally omitted, and that's what I'll leave it at.
Okay. All right. I totally understand. I appreciate you catching us up from your point of view. Are we, just one last question, I promise I'll move on to something else. We actually have some good news and some grant money I want to ask you about. So are we in ongoing negotiations, or are we in mediation, or where are we from the next steps?
We, again, at the last meeting, we were at a point where we didn't think we were going to go any further. We met over at the schools on December 22nd, which was, right after our last meeting, and the committee, we got together, we talked about an offer, and we sent it over to Barbara Locke on December 22nd, which was again a new offer, which she's had since December 22nd. Haven't heard back on that, so that's where we are. But we had a revised offer, and in the offer we asked if they were, willing to sit down and talk more about it. And as I said, we haven't heard back.
Good. Well, Barbara did say today to me that they're eager to get back to the table. So let's hope that it sounds like both parties are. So I'm
well, like I said, we have a revised offer that we sent to Barbara on the 22nd of December.
Okay.
And we'll be happy to talk more about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for keeping us informed. We really do appreciate it. I wanted to talk a little bit. So there was an opioid settlement that was a big settlement with some of the manufacturers of some opiate drugs. it brought 500, I'm going to get the net money wrong, so I'm going to look at my cheat sheet here, 533 million to the state of Massachusetts over a number of years. And specifically, we have been granted money here in Woburn against that. The data that I looked at showed about 155,000, just shy of that in the summer, fall of 2022, and then additional money that's coming to us every year through, I think, 2038, which will be about $736,000. So that's a lot of money to help serve drug awareness in our community, help those who might be addicted, increase education, all the things. And I'm embarrassed to say I had no idea that had already happened, and was really grateful that a viewer had reached out and asked about it. So I wanted to just kind of touch base with you and understand where are we at with either spending the money or planning to spend the money.
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's also more, there are additional settlements that are coming down, like the CVS, Walmart, and Walgreens. There's a few others that are in the process of reaching settlement agreements too, that would deliver even more money to local cities and towns. So we're waiting to hear on that. But this one, like you said, is about 750 over the next 12 to, we'll just say 12, 15 years. We have a schedule, and we have to this point received 155. The money, there's still, unfortunately, like we wanted them to deliver the money in a way that this money went right to the general fund. So I have to appropriate it out to a specific fund, which we plan on doing. And that money would supplement, we have money supplemented for the Mayor's Coalition, where we had a part-time employee working there. The plan is to extend that to a full-time position, and also include more mental health as well as drug addiction, because the two are, sometimes they're both tragic to any family who has somebody going through that. But we think that there is some overlap and some, there's some overlap in the two, and we're planning on creating a full-time position as an outreach position to get awareness and to provide more support and direct people to places where they can get support. So we're excited about the money. Next step is to appropriate it out to a specific fund, and then we would, pay for the increased expenses for a full-time position and some other services as well.
That's good news. I know just the way it was written, the overall goal of how that money is spent is to reduce overdose deaths, and there's lots of ways that we can do that. And sounds like a greatly needed position in the city. Are we, as part of the ongoing spend for this, looking at all at increased services in the area, or will this mostly be a connection role to connect people to services that can help them?
Well, I think to start, it would be more of a person who would do serve as a conduit and continued awareness, whether it be throughout the school system and the public as well, and then providing those providing the services or the material to get people to the services. But with additional money coming, Samantha, and getting a new person on board, that's where the rubber will hit the road, and we'll know what we can do. And sometimes in something like this, there's other cities and towns getting like revenue, and we would talk more about some regional stuff that might make sense, whereas it's not, a single city or town doesn't have, even with these grant monies, doesn't have the resources. But if you get together on a regional basis, there might be some synergies and ways to get it done that would be really effective.
This sounds like a really exciting opportunity. I'm so pleased to see us do that. When do you anticipate that position being opened and people who might be interested can apply?
Well, I was going to say the first of the year, but everything's the first of the year now. But, I've got a number of things I have to get down to the city council, and hopefully this Thursday I'll be able to send at least the request to segregate that money, so it's definitely used for the intended purposes. Which it has to be anyway. You have to, on a yearly basis, you have to provide reports. So but it makes it a lot easier if we do have it in a separate revenue account.
I love that. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you wanted to update the city on before I let you go?
I think next time I wouldn't mind if we talk about where we stand with a number of the different grants we're at. And, maybe we'll have another update on the schools and the status of negotiations and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I always like to talk about free money.
Yeah.
So that is, and I know it's not really free, being facetious, but it is a wonderful opportunity that we have as a city, and we're lucky to have strong advocates and our state representation who are always trying to bring money to our community to help us do great things.
That's good. All right.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it.
Tough end, Bob, to the Patriots season. I know that's what you're on to talk about. But,
Scott, you're introducing our next speaker, Bob Hyldburg, who's a Patriots historian and maybe a little sad today, but we're going to talk about some good stuff going on. Thank you.
I do have Bob's book, by the way. It's a plug, Samantha. It's really it's an encyclopedia, and I'd urge anybody to grab a copy. It's a great work of art, Bob. Good job.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year.
You too. See you guys.
Bye, Scott. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bob, I have to ask, what is a Patriots historian? I mean, obviously a clear fan, but you've gone well beyond being a fan. Tell us a little bit about what that entails.
Yeah, so I wrote a book that the Mayor Galvin talked about. It's called Total Patriots, and I was a fan. It took me about 15 years and about 15,000 hours to chronicle pretty much every player and every game since 1960. And in the process of just me being a fan and meeting hundreds of players, I ended up working for the NFL at the Patriots home games for 13 years and had access to anything I wanted to. So there really isn't anyone on this earth right now that knows more about the history of the Patriots than I do. And, the Globe and the Herald and the various media people have called me the Patriots historian because I've met players that have played in the games when they were the Boston Patriots in 1960. So there is a lot of obscure facts that I brought together, and it's just a hobby that's now turned into a full-time job. I've written a second book, and now I'm in the process of putting together leadership training and mindset mentoring over people that are coming over anxiety and adversity and all of those kind of obstacles.
We're very excited, Bob, for all that good stuff that you do. Today, I know you are MC for now, all the reasons we now know, for a fun event that's coming up on January 24th through the Woburn Chamber of Commerce. Tell us a little bit about that event. They're referring to it as a tailgating networking party, which sounds like all kinds of fun. What can people expect?
Exactly right. So it's going to be on January 24th at 5:30. So we'll give people a little bit of time to get there. It's going to be a 120 Commerce Way, the new apartments over there by Bob's Discount Store, 120 Commerce Way, Emblem 120. So they're sponsoring it. We're going to have food and drinks and just kind of hanging out to do some tailgating and networking. And then I'm going to do a little bit of a presentation for Patriots Hall of Famer Steve Nelson. He played 13 years. He had his number retired. He's in the Patriots Hall of Fame. So we're going to do about a half-hour presentation about his career. And then we'll do some question and answering and autographs, and we'll give away some prizes, and people will take pictures with Steve Nelly. So it'll be really a fun evening, but you got to work everything through the Woburn Chamber. The Woburn Chamber of Commerce is where you have to buy the ticket so they can know how much food and drink to supply for the people. And so contact Chris at the Woburn Chamber to get your ticket.
That's awesome. So when we say tailgating, I have visions of, lots of people with their truck beds out and their grills going and all that, but the food and all that is being supplied by the Woburn Chamber of Commerce, right?
Correct. Yeah. I don't know that we're going to do, unless we have hundreds of people show up, that we might do something outside, but certainly the people that are coming to Emblem 120, they certainly want to give them a few minutes to showcase their facilities. They got a big area there that we can kind of hang out and meet people. But so it's a combination of letting people know where Emblem 120 is and their facilities, and certainly we'll probably do some other events there. And I know they've done a bunch of events with the Woburn Chamber because it's just a great place, and it's a great place to live, and very convenient to get on the highway and get into Boston wherever you want to work.
That's excellent. Well, this sounds really fun. I encourage everyone to go check out the tickets. And just to mention, if you're not aware, you can be a member of the Chamber of Commerce and there's a fee for coming. And there is, though, an option as non-members to buy tickets as well. So if this particular activity gets you excited and you're a big Patriots fan and Bob's got all the facts in the head, like literally all the facts, and you want to have some good fun and say hello to some wonderful people in the community, definitely go to the Chamber's website and grab some tickets. It sounds like a blast. Thanks for joining us, Bob.
Yeah, so we'll be actually taping a version of our Untold Patriot Stories podcast, which people are listening to all over the world. So we'll be videotaping, and it'll be a blast. And Nellie is a great guy. So there's a lot of people that really want to meet him, and he doesn't get around that often. So to meet a Patriots Hall of Famer is really a special event for a lot of people. So I hope to see everyone on January 24th. And contact Chris at the Woburn Chamber, and we'll hook up, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Yeah, I love it. And if you've got your Patriots gear, bring it, wear it, right? I'm sure that'll be welcomed. As always, Woburn, thank you so much for watching. We've hopefully shared some good, important updates with you today about things that are happening across the city, get you excited about a fun event that's happening. And as always, please continue to take good care of each other.